What does it mean to be a Christian man in today's world? It's a question that evokes a myriad of responses. You see, society often presents a picture of manhood that can feel like a stark contrast to the teachings of Christianity. Expectations of rugged individualism, material success, and physical prowess are thrust upon us, yet can sometimes seem to conflict with the Christian values of humility, compassion, and spiritual devotion. So, how does one navigate this complex landscape? The answer, my friends, lies in faith. Faith is not just about belief, but about action. It's about walking the path laid before you, even when it's rocky or steep. It's about trusting in the teachings of Christ to guide you, even when societal pressures push in the opposite direction. Let's delve into the journey of faith, exploring the personal testimonies of Christian men who have walked this path. Let's uncover the challenges, celebrate the triumphs, and learn from their experiences. Faith, as we know, is not a walk in the park, but a journey through rugged terrains. It's a winding path filled with peaks and valleys, and it's on this path that men are truly tested. There are countless stories of men who've faced trials and tribulations that have brought them to their knees. Men who've had their strength and resolve tested in ways they could never have imagined. Men who found themselves staring into the abyss of despair, their faith being the only thing holding them back from the edge. Consider the story of a man named John. John was a successful businessman, a loving husband and father, living a life that many would deem enviable. But one day, his world came crashing down. He lost his business, his home, and was on the brink of losing his family. It was a dark time, a time when everything he believed in was questioned. But it was during this time, in the midst of his struggle, that his faith became his lifeline. Or take the story of Michael, a man who battled addiction for years. He was caught in a cycle of despair, unable to break free from the chains that bound him. It was a battle that tested his faith time and time again, but it was this very battle that led him to discover a faith that was stronger than his addiction. These stories are not uncommon. They are the stories of men who faced the darkest moments of their lives, their faith being the only beacon of light in the storm. These are the men who've walked through the valley of the shadow of death, only to emerge stronger on the other side. Their faith not just intact, but stronger than ever. These men have shown that faith is not just about believing when things are good. Faith is about holding on to that belief even when everything around you is falling apart. It's about trusting in something greater than yourself, even when you can't see the road ahead. In the midst of these trials, they found a deeper connection with God. Their struggles didn't weaken their faith, but rather they fortified it, transforming it into an unshakable foundation upon which they could stand. Being a Christian man is more than just attending church services. It's about embodying Christian values every day. This statement is not just a philosophical stand, rather, it's a call to action, a beckoning towards a life of authenticity that goes beyond the confines of a Sunday service. It's a lifestyle, a daily journey of embodying the values that define the Christian faith. Now you might be wondering, what are these values? Well, let's start with love. Not the kind of love that's limited to feelings of affection, but the kind of love that's selfless, that's willing to give without expecting anything in return. This is the love that Christ showed us, a love that's patient, kind, not envious, not boastful, not proud, not rude or self-seeking. This is the love that forgives, that covers a multitude of sins, and that binds everything together in perfect harmony. Speaking of forgiveness, let's delve into this powerful value. Forgiveness is a tough one, isn't it? It's easy to hold grudges, to let bitterness take root in our hearts. But as Christian men, we are called to forgive, just as Christ has forgiven us. Imagine the freedom that comes from releasing the weight of unforgiveness, the liberation that comes from letting go of past hurts. Then there's humility. In a world that often encourages us to put ourselves first, to fight for our rights, humility can seem like a foreign concept. But humility, my friends, is not about thinking less of ourselves. It's about thinking of ourselves less. It's about considering others better than ourselves. It's about serving rather than being served. Now, these values aren't just theoretical concepts, they're lived experiences. We've seen men who've chosen to love unconditionally, to forgive generously, and to live humbly. These men have not just transformed their own lives, but they've also made a significant impact on the people around them. These values, when lived out, can transform not just the individual, but also the people around them. So let's strive to cultivate these values in our lives, not just for our own growth, but also for the betterment of our communities and our world. Prayer, the lifeline of a Christian man's spiritual journey. Imagine a telephone line leading directly to heaven, where your words, your thoughts, your heart's deepest desires are heard and understood by the Creator of the universe. That's what prayer is. It's not just a religious ritual or a duty, but a privilege and an opportunity to communicate with the Almighty. For a Christian man, prayer is the cornerstone of his spiritual life. It's the compass that guides him through the stormy seas of life, the anchor that holds him steady when the winds of adversity blow. It's the fuel that ignites his faith, the lifeline that connects him to God's infinite wisdom and unconditional love. Now, let me share with you some stories of men who have experienced the transformative power of prayer in their lives. There was this gentleman who found himself in the depths of despair, burdened by financial troubles. He turned to prayer, not just asking for a solution, but for strength and wisdom to handle his situation. Miraculously, opportunities began to open up, and he was able to overcome his predicament. Then there was another, a man battling a serious illness. He prayed fervently, placing his faith in God's healing power. He didn't just pray for his recovery, but for the grace to endure his suffering with dignity and strength. And his prayers were answered. Not only did his health improve, but he also found an inner peace that surpassed understanding. These men and countless others have experienced firsthand the power of prayer. They didn't just pray when times were tough, but made prayer an integral part of their everyday lives. They prayed in joy and in sorrow, in triumph and in defeat, in certainty and in doubt. And through prayer, they found not just answers, but a deeper connection with God. Through prayer, they found strength, guidance, and even miracles. So, gentlemen, remember, the power of prayer is not merely in the asking, but in the faith that God hears, and in the patience to wait for His perfect timing. Because prayer is indeed the lifeline of a Christian man's spiritual journey. Becoming a strong Christian man is about aligning oneself with God's will and purpose. It's not just about following a set of rules or ticking off a list of good deeds. It's about seeking God's direction in every aspect of our lives and actively living out His plan for us. Imagine a compass. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. The compass always points north. Similarly, no matter where life takes you, your spiritual compass should always point towards God. It's about waking up every day and asking, God, what do you want me to do today? How can I serve you in my words, actions, and thoughts? There are countless stories of men who have made significant changes in their lives to align with God's will. Men who have left high-paying jobs to serve in the mission field. Men who have given up their vices to lead a more righteous life. Men who have chosen to forgive those who have hurt them deeply. These are not easy decisions to make, and yet these men chose to obey God's call. One such story is of a man who was a successful businessman. He had everything that the world considers important: money, power, fame. But he felt empty inside. He felt like something was missing. After much prayer and reflection, he felt God calling him to sell his business and use his wealth to help the less fortunate. Despite the doubts and criticisms, he obeyed God's call. Today, he runs a nonprofit organization that provides education and healthcare to impoverished communities. There's also the story of a man who struggled with addiction for years. He tried to quit multiple times, but always fell back into old habits. It was when he surrendered to God and sought His help that he was finally able to overcome his addiction. Today, he uses his testimony to inspire others who are struggling with similar issues. What these stories have in common is the transformation that comes with aligning oneself with God's will. They are testimonies of how fulfilling God's purpose can bring about true joy and satisfaction. In fulfilling God's purpose, they found true joy and satisfaction. This is the kind of man God wants you to be, a man who seeks His will and lives out His purpose. The journey of faith is not a destination, but a continuous journey. It's a path paved with challenges, but also triumphs. It's about cultivating Christian values in our day-to-day life and understanding the immense power of prayer. We've journeyed through these notions together, and now it's time to take these lessons to heart. Reflect on your spiritual journey. Have you been nurturing your faith? Have you been striving to be the man God wants you to be? These are not just questions to ponder, but calls to action. They're invitations to seek out God in the ordinary and extraordinary moments of your daily life. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress, growth, and becoming a little bit better each day. It's about standing up after you fall, dusting yourself off, and continuing on your journey with renewed vigor and faith. Embrace the journey of faith today. It's challenging, yes, but it's also the most rewarding journey you will ever embark on.